listeners, and welcome to another fabulous episode here, bringing you an awesome entrepreneur. Her name is Whitnie Wiley. Welcome, Whitnie.
Hi, how are you, Sonia?
I'm great. How are you today? All the way over
I am super. I am super. It's launch day for a book that I'm a part of. And so busy, but it's a good day. We're already #1 in a number of categories on the bestseller list. So
Woo-hoo, yes, and you're just doing nonstop authoring at the moment.
it's turned out that way. It was not the plan for this year. So it's really interesting that it has turned out this way. The goal this year was to get my solo book out, not quite finished with that. And then these other opportunities presented themselves. And I was like, well, I could pass them on or I could get involved. And what do entrepreneurs do but get involved?
Get involved,
right?
That's right. Well, let me tell the listeners a little bit about you.
Sure.
I popped my glasses on because I was got the tired eyes now because doing so much. The end of this year is like, whoa, my eyes are going, what have you done?
I know.
So we're talking on the topic today, listeners, about how to let your experiences improve your leadership to lead authentically by example. And Whitnie is the Chief Evolution Officer of Shifting into Action, an organizational and leadership development consultant and coach, and as you heard, best-selling author. So best-selling author, you've now got, I'm looking in your background because you've in the 3 of the One Habit series, plus another one there and a brand new one that you're launching at the moment. So what's this brand new one that you're launching?
So the brand new one is called Women Who Empower. There are 30 authors in the book, and we're each sharing a story about our lives. And depending on, the author, their particular intention. My intention in sharing my story is what we're talking about today, which is how to use your experiences basically to lead yourself better and to lead others. So I'm a big believer that we're all leaders. You don't need to have a title. You are a leader when someone is watching you, when someone is following you. So whether you're a parent or the coach of a little league team, you could be on the job, not have a title, but other people are looking up to you. And the best way to lead is by example and with love. And so my chapter in Women Who Empower is about that, how I have taken the experiences of my life, in particular, the darkest moment of my life when I lost my son about 15 years ago, and started asking the questions, what is this all about? What's life about? What am I doing here? What is my contribution? And as I was asking all those questions, the different stories of my life and the experiences that I had started to come to me. And it's like, well, how do I tie these pieces together? How do I weave this tapestry that is my life in such a way that I can move forward so that my life matters? If any of your listeners have ever had the experience of losing someone they love, and particularly a child, because we don't think of that, right? It's not natural for parents to lose their children. There's something really jarring about loss, but there's beauty in it as well. There is beauty in the pain that we go through, if you will allow it to be so. And I just started asking these questions, and then I sat to listen to the answers. And as I was listening to the answers, the different experiences, it's like, oh, I can do that with this experience, right? I can share this in this venue in this way. Sorry about that. That's the dog deciding that he did not want to sleep anymore. So, it if we just take our experiences and look at them for the lessons that are a part of them, then we can use those lessons to live our lives more authentically, and then be examples for other people as they are walking out their journeys and the experiences they're having.
Wow, talk about getting heavy straight away. But it is, yeah, look, loss, and I'm very fortunate that I certainly haven't had a loss of a child. That is one of my fears, I actually would have to say. Um,
I think
hey,
that's a pretty common fear, right? You know, we want so much for our children. We
yes.
want to protect them. We want to love them. We want them to be happy and to be, you know, good citizens. And so it is. It's a challenge, but I'm here to say, and I'm, you know, unfortunately not the only person that I know who has gone through this, that there is beauty and light on the other side of that, but you have to be willing to look for it and to accept it when it comes. And the challenge in that, of course, is guilt, right? Someone that you love is no longer here, and then you're enjoying your life.
Mm,
Regardless of who it is you lose. I think that's just a part of that experience. But you know, early on, I'm not a huge Dr. Phil fan. I don't know why I was watching him, but within the week after my son passed, there was a Dr. Phil episode that he was talking to these mothers about how they were behaving after their children had passed. And I just remember, you know, I don't remember all the details of the episode, but I remember him saying that the best way to honor our children is to live life well, right? Otherwise, you're dishonoring them. And, you know, I didn't know if I agreed with him at the time, but, you know, looking back over the past 15 years, it would not have done, it wouldn't have changed anything if I had crawled into a bottle, right? It
yeah.
wouldn't have changed anything if I had been miserable and depressed these last
Mm,
15 years.
mm,
There's nothing I could do about that, but there was a lot that I could do moving forward. And I made the conscious choice to live my life with intention and purposefulness from that point on. And that has what's led me on the path that I've been on, the journey, to meeting amazing people, people like you from around the world. If I had made other choices, this wouldn't be happening.
yeah.
So, you know, I am just a big believer that we can be in control much more of our destiny in our lives than we tend to think. And too many of us are just kind of sleepwalking. We get up, we go to work, we're unhappy in our work, which is the other sad part of this, right?
Yeah.
The studies say that around the world, most people are unhappy with the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not happy in their lives, and they're just kind of, you know, waiting for the weekend and then dreading going back to work the
Yeah.
following day. They're in relationships they're not happy in, doing work they're not happy with. And
Yeah.
I just did not want to be that person.
Yeah, exactly. To celebrate life really for what it is.
Absolutely.
It's such a short time. I think that's really lovely, and gosh, you know, to step up, it is leadership really, even in when you've gone through such situations that can be quite traumatic, to be able to still step up and still lead the way for yourself, and then lead the way for others. I think that's really awesome. And so some of our listeners, like most of our audiences are entrepreneurs and small business owners. So, when the reason why I do call this show Prosper is about prospering in all the different facets in your life,
Yes.
so that we can be as a whole, as a collective, as an individual, as well as being very holistic to be the best that we can for our businesses and for our clients, which is ultimately for ourselves because it's
Yeah.
often for our loved ones. So there's a lot that's involved to be good and prosperous. Prosperous isn't always about money. So
Right. Right.
yeah, so look, there'll be the people that are listening to this and have gone through a similar tragedy or experiencing it right now, like a friend of mine. And especially this time of year. So, and we're talking about letting your experiences improve your leadership to lead authentically by example. So we're really needing to deep dive into this a little bit more for both
Yeah.
the personal side and the professional side. And I think it's awesome. Do you want to give just a little bit more context and background about your story? What's led you to be where you're at? I mean, other
Sure.
than there was certainly that situation, I'm just
Oh,
wanting to get
sure.
the client, the listeners to get a bit more of a picture of you.
Sure. So, I wouldn't say that I was someone who thought I would be an entrepreneur. When I was young, I had moments where I was interested in being a doctor, and then I ran up against organic chemistry. That sort of put a damper on that one. I did not do well in organic chemistry. And the other thing that I wanted to do was to be a lawyer. And a really interesting story. I had a cousin when I was younger who wanted to be a lawyer. And so I made the decision that instead of being a lawyer, I would be a doctor, right? I didn't want, she was a year older than me, and I didn't want to follow in her footsteps. So instead of being a lawyer, and I don't even know that I knew what a lawyer was really, but it is something about it seemed appealing. I think people would say I like to argue, so that was the appeal for that. I'm not willing to concede that at the moment. So I decided I would be a doctor. And again, I ran into organic chemistry, and that sort of was the end of that. And I found myself at a particular point kind of doing dead end jobs and not really enjoying what I was doing. I had flunked out of university. I went to UC Berkeley studying applied mathematics. It was not the best educational experience of my life, I would say. And so I struggled, and I did not know why something that I loved so much. I loved math. I grew up always loving math, why I was having such a hard time studying math. And during that process, I found out I had some visual motor processing issues, which impacts my reading. And math had gone from being something that was numbers and solving problems to very theoretical, very text oriented. If anyone studies mathematics or applied mathematics, you'll know what I mean. I went a couple of years, never saw a number in a math course. And so it was just something that was really foreign for me, and I struggled a lot. So eventually UC Berkeley put me out, and I was just doing what I could do to earn a living. And then I found this job running this program, helping kids figure out what they were going to do after high school. I loved this job, just absolutely loved it. And as you know, life would have it, the owners of the program picked up and took their money to, they moved out of state and they took their money with them. So I found myself trying to figure out what I was going to do. And someone came into my office as I was, pondering where I was going to go next, who was talking about going to law school. And he said, I said, oh, I always wanted to go to law school, but I don't have a degree. And he said, in California, you don't need a bachelor's degree to go to law school. And I was like, really? So I applied to law school. I went to law school. I loved law school. I loved the process, the challenge, all of that. And so finished that, graduated, and became a lawyer and a lobbyist here in California, advocating for water policy. And I did that in the government relations for about 20 years. And somewhere along the process, it was after my son passed, I just found myself not wanting to be involved in the politics. I still love policy. And I think when you find the right policy and are willing to advocate for it, I think it's a beautiful thing. But I did not like the politics here in California and just knew it was time to move on to something different. And so I started following up an interest that I had in leadership, in organizational management, because I was watching what was happening in my organization, and I found it wanting. I'll just leave it at that. Like, I thought it could be done better. And so I started just taking courses at the community college just out of interest. And the more I studied, the more I enjoyed that. And so I decided to go back to school. I actually got my bachelor's degree after my law degree, which is not something a lot of people do. And then a master's degree in organizational development and leadership. While I was in school, I got a coaching certificate and decided that I was going to move in the direction of what I'm doing now, which is coaching, career management, transitions, leadership development, and helping organizations with culture, with creating work in workplaces. I say creating workplaces and cultures that people love to work in, helping them recognize that it's a mutual relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. And it should not be adversarial and contentious, right? Employees need employers, employers need employees, and they should be working together for the betterment of the organization, the bottom line, and lifting each other and helping each other in the process. So that's what I'm about. Very much believing that entrepreneurs, particularly as they are growing and taking on teams, if they start with, and you made this point earlier, Sonia, if they start with self-management, self-leadership, and develop that for themselves, and then move out from there in how they choose to lead, leadership becomes better. Yeah. And I think it will, and not just think, I know ultimately it will have an impact on bringing down the numbers. If 80% of employees are unhappy in their jobs, some of that is on them. Some of it is on the organizations and the leadership.
Yep.
Right? A lot of people are in jobs that they're not suited for. I'm a big believer that you should do work that you love. That means taking ownership of your life, taking ownership of your career, and figuring out what that is and doing what you love. And you know, your audiences of entrepreneurs, most of us do this because it's something we love to do. We've chosen something that we love to do. Wouldn't it be awesome if the people that we employed love to do their work as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so empowering. And the thing is that, and we have seen it, it's not hard to do. It just means you need to be very conscious and aware of it, and very purposeful and consistent with it and continuously improving it. But we've seen big people do it, like big organizations end up like they're entrepreneurs initially and that have created fabulous
Yes.
organizations. So it doesn't matter what size you are and how you employ those people, whether it's just a contractor and freelancers and things like that. It's being aware of how to be a whole lot more effective with it. But the thing
Yes.
is that it comes through to your clients and customers. They're not silly at the end of the
Right.
day.
Right.
They're absolutely not silly. And sure, we've seen that a whole lot more in the service base compared to the retail or online, like shop stores online. But it still does. It still does as
Yes.
far as the follow-up, the handling of issues, the extra little pop-up surprise sort of things. Yeah, if you want to be building your business, to me, leadership has to be first. Has to be
Absolutely.
the right sort of
Absolutely.
leadership, not
Yes.
dictatorial. So
Exactly, right? And as an entrepreneur, that's the best time to hone that skill, because as you grow, and you're absolutely right. Every corporation, large corporation, started with somebody, right? There was an entrepreneur in that, somewhere in the pipeline of that
that's
organization's,
right.
development. Someone started it, it grew, and they expanded, mergers and acquisitions, whatever that made it larger than it is. But it started, one, with a thought, and
Yeah.
then it started with one person or a couple of people putting something together. And one of the things that we here are, I'm not too far from Silicon Valley. I'm in California. Um, a couple of hours from Silicon Valley is that these entrepreneurs, they start these tech companies, and they turn out to be really poor leaders, bad bosses, right? And they bring people on, and they're driving people are staying for perks for a while, but people are not going to stay with that forever, right? There's not enough income. There are not enough perks ultimately to keep people around producing and happy. And at
Yeah.
some point, it comes back to the bosses, it comes back to the leaders. So if you could start before you hire your first employee, or before you bring on your first contractor or vendor, understanding how to be a good leader, it
Yes,
will only serve your business
absolutely.
in the long run.
Absolutely. Ah, we speak the same language. Absolutely. But you know what? And coming back to our topic about letting your experiences improve your leadership to lead authentically. So I said that, we want to sort of go into that sort of the personal space as well as the business space. And we've been touching it, we've been going around it all. So, what would be some tips that you would give them about improving their leadership to be more authentic to themselves as a personal way and then for business?
So, the place that I always start is with your values and your priorities. And I believe that you have to get very real with yourself. You need self awareness. It starts there. You have to be aware of what your values, your priorities are, your passion, your purpose. What are you bringing to the table? Who are you at your core? If you don't understand who you are, how you navigate the world, how you interact with people, how your energy impacts a room when you walk in. Do you lift the room up? Do you bring people down? If you don't understand that about who you are, all the rest of this sort of doesn't matter. So
Mm,
you start with this self-awareness. You start with understanding who you are, your values, your priorities. You tap into your purpose and your passion. And then you start developing a vision. not just a vision for your business and growing your business, but a vision for how you want to lead, how you want to show up in the world.
Yeah.
And when you bring those pieces together as part of your self awareness, then you can start doing what you're suggesting, which is being purposeful, being intentional, right? Being someone who shows up the way you want to show up. And if there are gaps between where you are now, right, with your self awareness and who you want to be or who you think you are,
Mm.
right, and so you can ask people you know, like, and trust to help you understand who you really are, right? So you can start with um, making lists of your strengths, your qualities, your characteristics, and the things that the way you think you are, and then ask other people and see if they match up. If
Mm.
they match up, great. If they don't, you've got some work to do, right? You have to fill in the gaps between where you are and where you want to go, or who you are and who you want to be. And as you fill in those gaps, then you can start working on the other pieces, which is being intentional about how you show up, mastering, yourself, your relationships, the way you want to lead. Think about, and I don't think this is something a lot of people do, is and as an entrepreneur, if you were to take a step back to days when you were an employee for someone else, or you observed people as they are moving up the hierarchy in an organization who get promoted, if they ever stop to think about what kind of boss they were going to be.
Mm.
Most people don't do that. They don't stop to think, am I going to be the kind of boss that's empowering, or am I going to be a micromanager? I don't think anyone on the face of this planet has ever sat and said, you know what, I think I'm going to be a micromanager who puts my employees down and makes them feel awful about themselves. Yet and still we have that. So why do we have it? Because they're not being intentional. They're not being self-aware about who they are and what they do. And so there's the self-awareness, there's intentionality, there's mastering this whole ball of wax, there's being purposeful. And in purpose, stopping to think about what is your role as a leader. What is your actual job? Um, is it to empower people? Is it to make sure work gets done? And if you decide it's to get work done, how do you want to go about doing that? Tying it back to being intentional about how you go about it. Leverage is huge. How do you leverage your strengths, the strengths of your team, the resources and tools that are available to you? And then the final piece I think you have to bring to the table is understanding energy. That your thoughts are energy, your actions are energy, and how your energy and the energy of others fit together in order to help you get to the results that you want to get to. And so those pieces are what I call simple. And if you listened as I was going through it, it's an acronym: self awareness, intentionality, mastery, purposefulness, leverage, and energy. And together, those things help you to be the best leader that you can possibly be. And what you'll be doing throughout the process is looking over the course of your life. What are the lessons that you've learned? How did you learn the lesson from that? What can you glean from your interactions with other people that can help you to do each of the components of this process? Most of it is centered in self-awareness, but they apply to the other components as well. And how can you bring all of that to bear and every day move the ball further
Mm.
forward?
I love that. I love that. I love the all, you just gave so much pearls of wisdom there. It's just like, yeah, you go. I'm all for leverage. Like, if you're going to be doing something already, then why not leverage it and do it even better?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
find a way to do it even better. So in that, the ROI on that alone is quite amazing. And the ROI being not only monetary, but also time and effort,
Yes.
blood, sweat, and tears that we do put in. But then certainly, yeah, with I love your acronym. That was just awesome. I certainly implore people to rewind and come back and revisit that again, and probably write that up. I'm definitely going to write that one up because it just speaks my language. I love it.
And there's a book coming on
Oh
that
yeah.
soon. So
Oh, so
yes,
not the one that you're launching at the moment, but another one coming up.
it will be in the first quarter of 2021. Yes,
Goodness gracious, you are getting so much into book writing.
I am. It's a
Never
great
thought.
way to share your knowledge, right? And to share, and it's there for people to ingest as it works for them. So
Yes. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I really like how you tied everything back to the experiences to be able to help us with our leadership, and that we do need to be stepping up to the plate. I always say, between one to one, one human being to another human being, or one to many, someone always has to be the leader, always
yes,
step up. And it doesn't always be the person who is supposed to be the leader. So
exactly. The title doesn't matter, right?
yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So then it's also how you step up, and then how, even if you need to hand that baton, that leadership baton, on to someone else, but it's all by example, and you're
Yes.
showing the way, victim or victor, show the way and how you want to be treated, and how, if we want to have more control over our future, which we do have, we have a whole lot more control than what we realize, then step up to that plate with the leadership. I love it. Um, I think we've probably explored that quite a lot, which was really, really lovely. So I must then ask you now, the remainder, what's on the horizon for you? So we've got the remainder of 2020, and now then going into 2021, one of them. And you've given us a little bit of insight. So I just want to make sure that we're across that. Not a problem.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things I have. The Simple Leader, which is the name of the book, will be in the first quarter of 2021. And then accompanying that will be what's called the Simple Leadership Method. It's a program that I'm developing with a partner. And so we're looking to launch that around the same time as the book. I am doing some online courses, and with all of that, I'm still finding time to enjoy life. I am a huge believer. You talk about it. People loving their work. I think part of that is self-care and taking care of yourself and downtime. And we were talking before we started recording about, when we recorded this, getting ready for, Christmas and the holidays, and how kind of hubbub Americans are.
Yes.
And, everyone else is kind of taking it down a peg. And,
Yeah, 'cause it's
Americans
summertime.
are all roused up. And, I agree with that observation, and that we need to spend more time checking in. And I want to say that despite all of, the difficulties that have come out of the pandemic, that there's some beautiful moments in this, some beautiful highlights and moments over the course of the last few months, and the shelter in place, and it's seeing families more connected. In the early days in particular, it's a little chilly outside now, but I had been in our home for a year, and I don't think I'd seen kids outside playing. And in the early days of the pandemic, not only were kids outside playing, but their parents were outside with them,
Yeah.
and the air was cleaner. And, so
Yeah.
there
Our
are
planet
some
started to
beautiful,
heal. Yeah.
right? There
Yeah.
is some beautiful things that have happened. And this goes back to, the early point of my story, sharing about my son, is that beauty can come from ashes. We just have to be open and willing to see them.
Mm.
And so I'm going to take some time. Come Friday, the rest of the year, I'm going to be pretty much shutting it down. I've got very minimal schedule for the rest of this year and the beginning of next year. And then I will spend some time reflecting on this year and my business and where I want things to go next year. So I'm a big believer in taking time and checking in.
Yes.
And so on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, and annually. And,
Yeah.
just being okay. And we had a conversation, and I know you want to wrap this up, but had a conversation a couple of days with someone who was saying that I just can't turn it off. I can't shut it down. But they had just been sick. And your body, your mind, your psyche you're sick because it's telling you
Telling you something
to
there. Yes.
stop, to
Yes.
stop,
Sometimes
just
we don't want to
stop.
listen though, do we?
But as entrepreneurs and A-type personalities, that's really difficult.
Yes.
Yes, it is, but it's not impossible.
Mm.
But you have to be intentional. And that goes back again to the simple method, right? Which is
Mm.
to be self-aware about what's going on, and then be very intentional about what do you want? What do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What's your vision? If I'm sure no one's vision for their life is to be sick and run down, out of balance, and always off, off balance and out of whack. No one is looking for that. The way to not have that is not to work more, is to slow down. And you'll actually find it's counterintuitive, but if you slow down, give yourself a break, sit in silence, you can actually be more productive
Yes.
with less effort.
Yeah. Love it. And again, that's all self-leadership, really.
Yes, absolutely.
I love
It
it.
is.
I was in a conversation, it was sort of dragged on a bit yesterday with a client of mine, and he was getting really upset with trying to find a new name. And at the end of the day, I just said, because I think we've gone around in a couple of circles. I think you actually just need to meditate on it, just to sit and because it needs to resonate with you. It's not about me giving you that answer. It's your business name. I think you really need to, if there's a block there, then you need to stop and take, just take a step back there.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's the advice for when you're trying to figure something out, right? They say put it down,
Yep.
go do something else, and
Yep.
come back to it.
Like I said, we really do speak the same language.
I know, I know.
I love it, love it, love it. So do you have an offer for the listeners?
I do actually, and it is called Be the Boss. It's an ebook, and I know you have the link for that to make it available. It is about basically what we've been talking about, and it is taking ownership of yourself. You can't be a good boss until you are a good leader of yourself, and being a good boss is about being a good leader. Being a good leader is about self-leading. And so looking into your values and your priorities and putting all those pieces in place so that you can then lead others.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you very much for that. And yes, as you did say, that I do have the URL for that. So that's on the web page where your interview will be housed at soniaclark.com/episode. Look for Whitney, and it's all there. So look, I thank you so much for your time and your pearls of wisdom. There was lots in there.
Oh,
Absolutely
it was
beautiful.
my pleasure, Sonia.
Yeah, look,
I'm so
absolutely
happy.
lovely.
I'm happy to have been here, and it was an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much. So, is there any last minute thing you might want to say just before we sign off?
I want to say, enjoy. All right, we've got one. We've only got one, so enjoy it. Live your life. Have a vision for the life that you want. Be willing to work hard for it, but at the same time, recognize that you've got to enjoy it, and just do that. Lead yourself, lead in love, um, and give where you can.
Yeah, beautiful. Lovely. What a way to end the year. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. Bye-bye.